Okay, for the 25 marker, you can have a choice of 2 questions. I've just put up on Twitter the answer I did for which policy is best, which a lot of you will have seen before, and we did that on Saturday as well. But I just wanted to do as well the structure for how a change in AD will affect Tiger. Now, there is a potential that they could ask another question, which is how a change in something else will affect Tiger. It's like how a change in cost of production would affect Tiger. But it's unlikely. Like almost all questions are one of these two. And if it's some random one we don't know, just make sure you pick the other question. Anyway, so what would be a good example out of these ones here? As you can see, I'm just going to go through them quickly. This one is talking about the best way to improve the performance of the economy. So you know that's a policy question. And it's to do with income tax, so it's talking about fiscal policy. This is supply side policies, so you know that's policy. Measures to reduce the size of the budget deficit. Now measures to reduce them, that's policy again. So the only one of these 4, which is to do with how a change in AD will affect Tiger, is this one. Impact of substantial cuts in public expenditure. I'm going to pick this one to do because we haven't really done many examples of it going down rather than up, but it's pretty much the same structure, but I'm going to do that now. Right, here we go. Remember, this is a 25 marker, so you start off pretending like it's a 12 marker. So you're going to start off by doing definitions. So, what can you define first of all? Just look in there, is there anything you can define? I would say, I'd say what the performance of the economy is. So I'd say performance, what's that? I don't know why I'm writing this out, but I am. Performance of the economy, and I would do a brief little thing about what Tiger is. So I'd say we tried to have a balanced trade balance. We'd want to have sustainable growth. We'd want to have inflation, but inflation only at 2%, so a tiny bit of inflation, but not much. And finally, we'd want to have unemployment to be low. Now, this might be a good chance to show that you actually know stuff about the real world. So you could say, for example, economic growth at the minute in the UK is about 0.8%. You could say that inflation is it's just gone up to 1.8% today. And you could say unemployment is around about 6.9%. So you could say that already, just to try and show that you know something about the real world. Okay, once I've done that, I'd explain, no matter what the question is, I'd explain how this will affect AD. So I'd say if there was a cut in public expenditure, there'd be less spending by this public expenditure is spending by the government on the public. It's not spending by the public, if you think it's that, it's actually spending by the government. So, what's going to happen if there's a cut in public expenditure? Well, AD is going to go down. Now, don't just say AD is going to go down, explain why. Go, a public expenditure is part of government spending. Then, sorry, I can't write. Then, if government spending goes down, this will make AD go down because of C plus I plus G, that bit. So if government spending goes down, it would mean AD should go down. So you've said that. Once you've said that, you then draw your diagram of AS there and AD going the wrong way. Now make sure with all your diagrams you explain them properly and draw them properly. Right. Okay, so by drawing that diagram, you do a little bit of an explanation of saying AD's gone down, causing P1 to go to P2 and Y1 to go to Y2. So you say that first of all. Now this is going to be the kind of key part of your essay now, so do not rush the next part, because the next part is where you're going to get all your marks. Now for the next part, I want you to be thinking about that chains of analysis thing. So you're going to be talking about, what's it called, AD has gone down, how that's going to cause, what effect that's going to have on Tiger. The thing is, you don't want to just go through one part of it, you've got to go through every single explanation of why AD going down would affect Tiger. So let's start off with how AD going down. I might use a bit more space here for this. Okay, this is terribly drawn, but we're going to go with it. Right, this is an idea with every single one of your points going through Tiger. You can go through 4 links in the chain to get to the other side. So don't just say AD going down will make trade balance go down or whatever. Actually explain it through. Right. So if AD goes down, this actually could potentially be good for trade balance. So you'd say that is your first point you might say is maybe good. Right. Why would that be? Because if AD goes down, the UK is working within productive capacity. Okay, I'm just going to change my pen nib. Go away. Right, if we're working within our productive capacity, that means UK people don't need imports. Right, so this reduction, well, they don't need imports. Why? Because there's enough goods in our own country to kind of satisfy all their needs. So they don't need imports. This should be good for trade balance. But you've got to see how you've got to go through 4 links to get there. Okay, the next one. Right, is it going to be good for inflation? You could say maybe good. I like the word may rather than saying it will be good. Right, this is because AD's gone down. What hasn't gone down? The productive capacity, if you can read that. Productive capacity has stayed the same. This means there is now a big negative output gap. And what else can you say? I mean, you can still go. I mean, I could go much further, so I'm going back to here to say some more points. You can also say, I don't know, I've done that arrow. It doesn't help anyone. Just to carry this point on, I would say this would be a reduction in demand pull inflation. So demand pull inflation would go down, and then I'd define that. So this second one I've been able to say 6 points to get across. That's even better. Like the next one, I'd say growth. I'd say AD's gone down, so that's going to cause a reduction in real GDP. So I'd say there was a reduction in the so we'd be having I'd write negative output gap again. Now we've got a negative output gap. That would mean, what would that mean? If we had a negative output gap, good. So we're not working towards our productive capacity. Which means, I think all you can really say is that. There's not much else you can say, apart from it's bad. I don't really know what I should say there. Can anyone actually read my handwriting? Looking back at it, I can't read a bit of it. Anyway, moving on. So AD going down onto unemployment. This is an easy one. So with low AD, you'd say that there'll be less demand for goods and services. If there's less demand for goods and services, this means that there'll be less demand for goods, for workers. This is because of derived demand. I'll explain what derived demand is, and I'd say this would be a reduction in cyclical unemployment. And then I'll explain what cyclical unemployment was. Right, do you see here now, with each one of these ones, I've had to go through 4 stages for it to be an acceptably good point. With each of these stages, I would have got an analysis point from the examiner. So you'd put an AN next to each one of these. And that means I'm already going to be getting 13 at least. Where you'll go wrong is if he puts a W in front of them, that means you've done weak analysis and you haven't really explained it properly and you haven't gone through these stages. That will stop you from getting good marks. Right, just before I move on this one, and let's move on to the accelerator and the multiplier, I think there is definitely a point here where you can get some evaluation in before you get to proper evaluation. Now, if you're going to put the evaluation in here, you have to make it very clear, and you've got to write in evaluation. or on the other hand, and underline it so they know that you're doing evaluation. So keep on doing that exactly how you've done, but there are some evaluations you can kind of shoehorn in. For example, with inflation, an evaluated point in R but here would be, it depends on what's going on with cost push inflation. Because at the minute we're saying inflation is going down, but there could be cost push inflation in the economy. And you could draw a diagram and explain that if you wanted to. With unemployment, your R but could be, we haven't talked about there being structural unemployment. So you could be saying, at the same time as this cyclical unemployment increasing, structural unemployment might be going down, so unemployment as a whole might not be that bad. Now, if you're going to do R buts here, you've got to explain through those R buts in the exact same way as you've explained through your analysis points, and that means you've gone through them bit by bit and you've explained each part of it. Don't just do a rubbishy one-line R but, or there's no point. Okay, the next bit. Right, so what would we normally do? When AD goes up normally, we'd be talking about the accelerator and the multiplier effect. But the problem we've got here is AD has gone down. But that we don't want to miss out on talking about the multiplier and the accelerator, because they're good things to talk about. So instead we're going to call it a downwards multiplier. So you can still define the multiplier as you did before. So a multiplier is when there's an increase in AD, it will cause a greater increase in national income. And the downwards one is when there's a decrease in AD, it will cause a greater decrease in national income. Right, so you explain that first of all. To really get the full analysis points for the multiplier effect, you'd actually explain it through. So companies have less money. Right, because companies have got less money, they sack workers. This means these workers have less money, so they spend less in shops. Then it goes on to those shops having less money. So you can carry on and say, look, there's going to be a multiplier effect, it's going to keep on hitting the economy. You can also say there's going to be a downwards accelerator. That's probably not how you spell accelerator. So all you're saying with that is, with a downwards accelerator, you're saying, instead of investment going up, it means AD's gone down, so that means investment will go down. So this means there's even less chance of our productive capacity increasing. And just explain that through. Right, that's where it's so far. Now, normally, when there's an upwards, when there's a normal accelerator, you get to draw this diagram, with AS going outwards, like that. But you can't actually do that at the minute because, you can't because it hasn't gone up, and it wouldn't. Alright, so we've gone through everything we can do for this with AD going down. It's much easier to do a question where AD goes up, in my opinion, because you could have drawn that previous diagram, but you can't in this situation. So, with AD going down, we've done everything we can, and all we've got left is to do some R buts. So, what are the clear R buts that we could do? Right, an easy one for this one, it always is. First of all, look in the data. There'll be at least one magic R but, like one which you know is going to make you do well. Please use it, don't miss it, right? The second R but you can easily do is you're saying, they're talking about public expenditure going down. Now, what's the biggest part of AD? Consumption is worth 60% of AD. So you could say at the same time as public expenditure going down, consumption could be going up. So it might not actually have an effect. A third thing you could be saying is at the same time as public expenditure going down, you could say maybe interest rates might be going down. So this could counteract it. So there are three really easy R buts you could go for. And to be honest, you don't need any more than that. As long as you explain through your R buts well, then you'll probably do well. Your final conclusion is basically saying how, yes, a reduction in public expenditure could be bad for the economy, but it really can depend on what policies the government are doing to try and solve it. And that's basically it.